Good morning, everybody. I think we'll get started. I'm sorry for the slight delay, a couple of technical issues there. My name's Clayton Heim. I'm the presiding member for today's Development Assessment Panel. And with me I have Mr. Ian Birch, the Deputy Presiding Member, and Ms. Nima Premji online as the third Specialist Member. For the first item, we've also got Mayor Biffarati and Councillor Deveson online. I'll declare the meeting open at 9:38 and acknowledge the traditional owners and elders past and present of the land upon which we're meeting today. No apologies, no members on leave of absence, and minutes from previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Move to the City of Bayswater item. Can I get a declaration of due consideration from members that you're familiar with the material? Thank you. Thank you. Declarations or disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Biffarati.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just disclosing an impartiality interest as the applicant is known to me through work I've done as Mayor at the City of Bayswater, and I'll be staying in the room.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I accept that. We'll move to the first item, 3.1, which is the proposed child daycare centre. We have a presenter, Mr. Merger. Where are you?
Good morning, member. This is Daniela Merger. I'll be speaking on behalf of Peter because he's lost his voice, if that's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
I do have him in the room though.
You've got three minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. So good morning. As I said, my name is Daniela Merger from Urbanista Town Planning, and today we're speaking in support of the officer recommendation to approve an 82-person childcare centre at 165 and 167 Rawn Ave in Morley. Joining me online are project architect Gianni Giroux and landscape architect Julian Kradowski. We're happy to answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentation, should there be any. The application process commenced late last year, and a significant amount of effort has been invested by our architect and team of consultants to address the city's concerns and comments at every stage of the process. We've worked collaboratively with the city's design review panel, presenting to them on 3 occasions and ultimately receiving their support. The DRP's constructive feedback has helped to improve the overall design of the building and fine-tune issues relating to the sloping topography of the site. In terms of the proposed land use within the existing context, we've been able to demonstrate that a childcare centre is an appropriate use for this site, and the built form is consistent with the character of the area. Respect for the current residential R25 zoning and the low-scale residential development surrounding the site is achieved with the development being single-storey, the provision for generous landscape side and rear setbacks, and the use of materials and finishes that are common in the local area, such as exterior face brick and a pitched roof form. To ensure that any potential land use conflict is managed appropriately, an operational management plan has been submitted which provides procedures to manage noise, activities and traffic, and this management plan has been supported by the city and is provided as an attachment in the agenda. In terms of the future planning context, the locality and the wider area will be stimulated by the construction of the new Morley train station, which is located approximately 800 metres east of the subject site. The location of the Galleria Shopping Centre, approximately 800 metres to the west of the site, and the Bayswater Waves Aquatic Centre across the road from the site help to form an attractive future planning precinct area, which the city defines in its draft local planning strategy as the Morley Station Precinct. The Morley Station Precinct is planned to deliver high-density development outcomes and employment and economic benefits to the local area, and importantly, Rawn Avenue is identified as an urban corridor. which will provide for higher density residential development and intensification of activity. The childcare centre aligns with the wider vision for the Morley precinct area, as well as the Broad Avenue urban corridor, by providing an important service to the community that is much needed with the intensification of residential development. Overall, this area is considered as an area in transition, and the balance between respecting the existing character of the area and considering the desired future outcome is achieved. The proposed development is an attractive building that will positively enhance and improve the streetscape through the use of contrasting modern materials and colour schedules on the front elevation and well-placed landscaping opportunities. The building will be slightly elevated from the natural ground level, which is intended to create an attractive and better connected development outcome. The supporting feature rock landscaped retaining wall on the front elevation, the open style front fencing and the layout of the play areas completes the development, delivering an overall high quality building that is worthy of approval. The planning conditions applied by the city have been reviewed and are reasonable in our opinion. We again thank them for the recommendation today. The development is an excellent design and it's an important and needed use. It's compatible with its location and consistent with the planning framework. It should be supported today and hope that the decision of it should be supported and hope that that is the decision of the panel this morning. And as I said, myself and the consultant, the architect and the landscape architect is available for questions should there be any. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Questions of the presenter from panel members? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I just noted that your hours of operation, 7 a.m. You might be aware that we've dealt with a few of these in the last few years.
Yeah.
Have 6:30 opening with a 7 o'clock curfew. Well, a half-hour curfew to 7 o'clock for the outdoor play areas. Was that discussed with the city? The condition is, well, you've applied for 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So apologies for that. Yes, the condition does say 7 a.m. But the sort of, I guess the last sentence of the condition allows staff to arrive on site 1 hour prior to the opening and 1 hour after should that be required. So I think we are satisfied with a 7 a.m. opening time.
That's for staff.
The centre opens at 7 a.m, but staff are able to arrive at the site 1 hour prior, it's being 6 a.m.
No, I was talking about the parents, but if you're fine with it, then
Yeah, that's
okay.
Further questions of the presenter? No. Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you.
City of Bayswater officers. Do we have? Where are they? There we are. Do you have a presentation, or are you just happy to take questions?
Good morning. Just to introduce myself, Michael Robson, Statutory Planner, and with me is Helen Smith, who's Manager Statutory Planning and Compliance. And also we have an observer, Haida Alamari, who's a graduate planner.
Thank you.
If necessary, I can do a short presentation, but we'd also be quite happy to accept any questions.
Okay, I'm sure we've read all the material, so I'm not sure we need a presentation, but that's up to you. Are there questions of the city officers? No, gosh, you've got off scot-free. Well done. Okay, thank you for that. We'll move to the item then. There's a recommendation for approval with conditions. Is there a mover and seconder for that item?
Oh, I'm happy to move, Chair.
I've got Nima.
Oh.
That's all right. And Mr. Birch. Ian Birch. Nima, over to you. You're on mute.
Sorry. I move to approve the recommendation as put by the responsible authority. The actual development is within the statutory planning framework. It meets all the guidelines. It meets all the policy requirements, and yes, I'm sure that it will be of a great benefit to the community there, because I live not very far from it, so I have a very good understanding of the area that you're talking about. And also I'd like to thank the applicant for taking on the comments by the design review panel, and they have changed it accordingly. So on that basis, I support the recommendation of approving.
Thank you, Nima. Liam.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I also support the application and the recommendation in the responsible authority report. Clearly, this has been through a very thorough review process, and I think the result is evident that it looks like a very good proposal. There's always a challenge with fitting these into residential area, and I think all the issues that arise from that have been adequately and properly dealt with.
Thank you. Further speakers on this one? Councillor Eveson.
Yes, just a small note, just regarding condition number 10. I just noticed a typographical error just in the word submission. The fourth word in that condition probably just needs an adjustment.
Oh, okay, thank you for that. That's corrected. Further speakers? No, I'm happy to support it too. As Mr. Birch alluded to earlier on, childcare centres are, well, we've had many applications throughout the metropolitan area, but they're usually very, very difficult things to deal with in a residential area. This is probably the easiest of the childcare centres that I've come across in terms of an application. So, and the fact that it complies in many respects. So I'm happy to support it. So back to Nima as the mover, if you want to close debate.
Oh, no, nothing further to add. Happy to support.
Okay. All right, I'll put the motion all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on to thank you to the councillors. Move on to the City of Canning.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Please.
Yep. Just hang on a minute while we swap councillors over. All right, welcome to Mayor Hall and Councillor Kunz. Just go through the preliminaries first of all. Declaration of due consideration. Are all members familiar with the material before you today? Let me know. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? No. Yes, Mayor Hall. You're just on mute at the moment.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to make a disclosure in regards to the Chunghwa matter. I've had many dealings with the Chunghwa Association, the applicants, over my time as the Mayor of the City of Canning. So just a partiality interest, I intend to remain in the room.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, move on. We've got some presentations. Mr. Green, 3 minutes for presentation.
May I sit or do
You may sit over here, Mr. Green.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, ladies, gentlemen, and my colleague, Rotarian. I have come this morning to applaud the initiative to do with the Chunwa development. I have been a member for between 25 and 30 years. I've lost track, and it worries me a little about whether or not enough parking will be made available, but I leave that to you, of course. But I just caution you about that. And access to the Chunwa development is through two side streets, I understand, and not a major intersection, which I would expect to be built to service the Bentley redevelopment, as was proposed on Bentley 360. Now, I'm not going to use any of your time except to say I would be careful about their provision of parking to avoid future problems, of course. And I would be a little doubtful about access to through the two small roads being put aside for access, ingress and egress to the Chunwa. It's possible for me to be told, bearing in mind I'm a property owner with a very large common frontage, the Bentley redevelopment boundary, and I mix up a little in community affairs and have been for the last half century or so. Is there any way that I can receive from you some indication as to where the major intersection to serve not only the, which it will be built, of course, not only to serve the Chunwa properly, but also the Bentley redevelopment? Is it possible for me to be informed about where approximately this?
Yes, Mr. Green, I think the officers from the City of Canning are online, and we'll ask them a question about that when it's their turn to make some comments. That helps. So if you want to, are there any questions of Mr. Green?
The president's sitting over there.
Okay.
I suppose just Mr. Green, there is a condition of approval, condition 17, that talks about an event management plan to manage those larger events that they have. There's only a few every year. Are you aware of that? And that'll be things like planning how to get people there, and also managing the traffic on site and so forth.
I take your point. The answer is I'm fully aware that these things would exist, but I haven't read anything about it.
Right, thank you. Are there further questions?
I had my 3 minutes.
Yes, well done. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing, Chunwa. I truly appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on then to the next presenter, Ting Chen, apparently, instead of Nai.
Is it okay if the progress comes up and joins?
I think, yes, I think if
might be a bit easy to answer some questions.
Chen, you've got 3 minutes, and then Tomich asked for 5 minutes. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ting Chen, President of Chunwa Association. Thank you for your support for our future. Chunwa Association was founded in 1909, and then we currently provide aged care services, Chinese community school to in Western Australia. Currently, we serve about 900 seniors from about 30 countries. This center will be mainly used for our aged care people, but it's like daycare. But in terms of the traffic, I don't think it's any problem. Because currently we do have our service in Bayswater. It's only about we arrange the bus to pick up the seniors from different locations and then send them to the center and then for the respite care. This center will be mainly used for that. And then we also build a community hall as well. But community hall currently based on our current occupancy in our Bayswater center is about less than one major event per month. This major event is like for over 300 people. Okay. And then also we have a small events. I don't think it's currently we receive many complaints. We don't receive complaint from the local residents on the traffic in our Bayswater center. And then same will apply for our new center too. And then based on the plan, I think development WA will have a major development in that area. And then we might have a third as an entry or exit in the other road. Okay, and then this is what
Thank you very much. We'll come to you with questions once we've done the whole presentation.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, Mayor Hall, you have a question, do you?
Chair, I just wanted to say we're finding it, or I am finding it almost impossible to hear the presenters at the moment. Mr. Green was just a distant voice, and Mr. Chen too. I can barely hear him. I'm not sure if everybody else is having the same experience.
All right. Well, we'll move to Mr. Tomich and we'll try and get Mr. Tomich to speak up.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Jackson Tomich, planner at Urbis, project planner for this proposal. I'm joined by Jonathan Jones from Encom, the project manager, and Mark Carroll, the architect from TNZ Architects. We just heard from President Genting providing an overview of the Chunghwa Association and the many benefits they bring to the community. So we're very grateful.
A minute. Mayor Hall, is that better? Are you able to hear? Okay, thank you. Sorry, carry on.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
I see the same. So through Chenting's presentation as well as the RA, we think the proposal's been articulated really, really well. We have no issues with the RA and how it's been presented, so I'm not going to focus on the proposal today. We're just going to discuss some of the key points we'd like to focus on. And I believe we've sent through a memo as well, which articulated some of these conditions that we'd like to discuss, and I'll just provide the overview. So just firstly, I'd like to thank the city for their assessment and the favourable RA. So we support the RAs presented, just the two conditions and their accompanying advice notes we'd like to discuss. The first being condition number 4. There's 2 actions we'd like to address for condition number 4. The first being really the removal of the condition, and the second being moving 4D into its own condition. Condition 4A is superfluous to the requirement of the proposal. The pedestrian pathway was a design review panel mediated resolution, I suppose. We went to DRP without having a dedicated resource.
Attention. A test of the building emergency warning system is about to take place. This is a test only. No action is required by the general staff. I repeat, no action is required by the general staff.
Take a bit. Sorry.
Okay.
Apologise, everyone. We're going to get an alarm soon. Don't move.
The first tune you will hear is the alert tune.
Every time.
Yes.
A few times. I, so we mute. Just start. Good idea.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Apparently that is
Good one.
finished. We'll go back to the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
They finished and you went,
Okay. All right. Back to you, Jackson.
Okay. Thank you. So I think I was talking about 4A before all that happened. So essentially, I'll start that again. That the pedestrian pathway currently through the site, just shown here, that was a DRP mediated outcome, and we didn't originally have one at the first DRP. Then we included one, and the second DRP was really resolving the exact location and how that presented. There was no real discussion of a second pathway, and as such we'll lose car bays and the like for the proposal. Second being the facilitate two-way vehicular egress and ingress. We're comfortable with that to the northern intersection. However, to the southern intersection, it does present you can see there basically the waste vehicle trucks from the ingress will require the full crossover, and whilst it's not a major issue, there is a concern that the swept path of the vehicle does present an issue for potential vehicle conflicts for private vehicles. So having that as entry only is preferred. And lastly, 4D, we will comply with the pedestrian access in Australian standards for bicycle parking. So whilst we request condition 4 to be deleted, 4D can be inserted as its own condition. We're comfortable with that because we will comply. The next condition is just condition number 5. We'd like to make 2 amendments. One, introduce the reference to the ground floor plan in 5.2, where it discusses the on-street car parking space. So the embayments shown on that plan were discussed with the city, and a resolution was provided there through the engineering team as through their further information, and that was provided in accordance with their requirements. Having that on there just provides the additional certainty heading into the post-approval discussions with the city, provides some clear parameters for the those post-approval discussions for the Chunghwa Association. The last one is just 5.3 regarding the verge landscaping. It's our view that the assessment and the approval of a building permit doesn't require verge landscaping finalisation at that stage. We don't object to it. We think it's important and we will provide it. But if it is delayed, it can allow for the essential built form components for the building permit to be expedited, and allows for, I guess, a more prolonged consultation with the city on how that verge will be treated. I'll just move to the relevant advice notes. These are both relevant to the conditions that I've discussed. Advice note 2, we're requesting this one be deleted because if condition 4A, B and C are removed, this advice note is no longer applicable. The advice note does talk about bicycle racks adhering to Australian standards. Again, it's just a duplication of the condition and therefore it wouldn't be required as an advice note. Similar for advice note 3, the development plans already include pedestrian, footpath, on-street bays and verge landscaping, and relevant conditions have been imposed discussing that exactly. The advice note doesn't introduce any conditions. One thing it does talk about though is a traffic island on the Headley Street and Arnott Way intersection. It's only talked about that in the advice note as well. There's nothing pertaining to that. So we struggle to see the need nexus for it. It's not within the scope of the application. It wasn't a recommendation of the transport impact assessment. And given we're not compelled to deliver it and the like, it's really the city's responsibility to ensure the suitable operation of that intersection if they will design it to their standards as well. So that's where we see in that regard. That's all from me. Just the team here available for any questions. Jenny Chong's unwell today, so the President as well.
Thank you very much. Questions from panel members of the presenters? Perhaps we can take off the presentation. Thank you. Yes, Ben.
Firstly, just in relation to your request. Oh, feedback there.
Right.
Just in relation to the two-way crossover. Firstly, just wondering, is that designed for just one-way traffic or
one to the south? No,
south.
It can have both ways. It's designed to the standard of both. We've just proposed it just for the as an entry, only just for the.
Just thinking when you get the bigger events, whether it could be, you could open it up, whether it would help with traffic management if there was two-way access. I don't know. It might be anyway. I guess that's something you can deal with through your traffic, your event management plan or something.
Yeah, so Commission 17, we're happy to have those discussions in that regard.
Just
attention. This is the buildings chief fire warden. There's been a miscommunication from the security officers conducting the EVIS test today. I can confirm there is no action required from general staff today. I repeat, there is no action required from the general staff today. Thank you.
Yeah, just in relation to, and I suppose it's well, it's to yourselves as well, and maybe what the city's view is. But just thinking with the construction of the pedestrian path, and also I know you talk about the landscaping, but is there during construction is there potential for damage to be to the well, particularly on time up? If you build a footpath and then you're going to have construction vehicles going over it, would it make more sense to put it in once the construction's completed?
The verge landscaping.
Well, both verge landscaping and also 5.1, which is the construction of a new pedestrian footpath. Have you thought?
We're happy for that to be prior to occupation.
That's not a concern?
No, that's not a concern. I think in that memo, particularly the verge landscaping, requested that to be prior to occupation use, and we're happy for.
No, I understand that, but I just wondered whether you wouldn't have the same concerns with that.
No, we wouldn't have any issue if that got shifted to prior occupation use prior to building.
And just in relation to it's quite a big area, the hall. I think I counted, roughly counted 300 odd seats around tables. I think you mentioned up to 5 events a year, which doesn't seem a lot for such a big space.
But this one is based on our current 300 floors in Bayswater.
So the hall's used for other things as well, badminton courts and going through there as well. So there's many other recreational uses that'll be used. It's a bit of primarily a multi-use space.
But I think in terms of the big events, as Cheng mentioned at Belcotta, about one major event a month.
Yes.
Is that likely to occur here?
Maybe.
Yeah, so it could be more than 5 a year.
Yes.
And could I hire out the place for my organisation and hold a big event there?
Normally we maybe just for like a big autumn festival celebration, something like that.
Could I hold a conference there for my, or not your organisation, but my organisation, say?
Maybe we open to a community.
So it could be a lot more big events.
Yes.
Yes, that could become a part of that event management plan as well. We could discuss it in there. I mean, we did talk about in there, around 5 major events per year, and that's really that maximum 500 cap that would have. But there could definitely be other small events used in that space. And I guess in that event management plan, we could really get to detail of how many large maximum events there could be versus your standard events for other community organisations, as you mentioned.
I just think they probably will discuss it with the city officers, but there needs to be some clarity around that, I think, so the community understand. Okay. Further questions? Yes, is that Councillor Kunz?
Thank you, through you, the Chair. I just wanted to ask about the issue with the second pedestrian access way. Just in regard to the use of this facility, my understanding is there'll be small and large events, and so people will be arriving and leaving at similar times. Without that second access way, will people not be needing to walk through more of the car park? I'm just interested in your belief that it's not required. People parking more to the western side would be required to walk through the traffic, especially if they had walking frames and so forth. Do you see that as an issue?
I don't see that as a particular issue in this regard. I mean, the event for the site, I guess, for if there's going to be 10 events here for 360 days a year would be the primary community purpose facility, where there's oversupply parking, I guess, in that regard, where it would be appropriately managed. When it comes to those key events, there will be traffic wardens and marshals and the like through there that will guide people to cars and parking as well. And that's all things that we've discussed. Now, they are rare in the operation of this facility. It's with the one provided, and then as well in conjunction with the event management plan that people can traverse and through that parking area quite safely.
Okay, thank you. Zima.
Yes, I had a question with the second pedestrian access. Just listening to the number of events and people, 300, 500, could be once a month. And literally, if you're having once a month with 300 people, now it's a lot of events. The second pedestrian is having that in, does that compromise the parking that could probably be lost? Is that why you want that condition to be removed?
Yeah, so that's a key component of that being removed as well. I can't recall off the top of my head how many bays were removed. About three. So yeah, it would impact the amount of bays for those events.
Yes. I'll come to the officers in a minute. Further questions from panel members of the presenters?
Just if I could clarify that, so that issue was thoroughly considered through the DRP
Absolutely.
process.
So when we went to DRP, we didn't have a very pedestrian pathway through, and we had one, and we proposed one. the DRP wasn't happy with its location, so it became shifted to a more centralised location with better access directly to the colonnade as you exit the actual facility itself, and that's where we got to in a bit of a green, if you will, DRP. There wasn't any discussion in there about a second.
Legibility is one of the sort of 10 criteria that go through.
So we got the green.
All right. No further questions of the presenters. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll move to the canning officer. Austin Donaghy. Austin, do you want to make any comments? Perhaps you could address the matter that was raised by Mr. Green so he can hear what is proposed.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. At present, the city is still working collaboratively with Development WA regarding the Bentley redevelopment area itself. So the overall master plan is still in working concept stage, but that will be advertised for public comment in the next month or two, I do believe. However, I can say that there will be access into the development site from Dumond Way, as well as access from the north and east as well through Nyap Way. So there will be multiple accesses into the Bentley redevelopment area itself. With regards to the subject proposal itself, the city's engineers did review and assess the proposal in terms of traffic movements, and were supportive of the proposal that the increased traffic to the development can be accommodated within the existing local road network, as well as the close proximity to Manning Road itself, which can obviously accommodate a much larger number of vehicles each day.
Thank you. Do you want perhaps make some comments on the requested changes to the conditions?
Yes, indeed. Relating to condition 4, the city has requested the additional pedestrian pathway essentially through the design review. They had indicated that legibility through the car park is very poor, and that comment was made even with the one pedestrian pathway. I think that's in attachment 6 of the report itself. The city's engineers obviously reviewed the development proposal itself and felt that given there is 2 accesses to the car park, and as the applicant has stated today, there will be numerous large events of over 500 patrons visiting the site, many of which could be elderly, that an additional pedestrian pathway to the west to service those car parking bays to the west of the car park was required. In relation to the loss of the vehicle bays, this will only be a reduction of 2 bays on what is originally proposed, resulting in, I think, 88 bays being provided internally. 88 bays still is compliant with the city's requirements for the size of that building itself. So the development is still be able to provide compliant parking on site, even with the second pedestrian pathway provided itself. With regards to the 2-way crossover to the south, I'll just pass over to Troy Bozich, who's the manager of major projects and strategic transport, who will provide some context relating to the proposed crossover.
Hello all. Yeah, just in relation to that crossover, the whole car park has been designed to accommodate 2-way traffic. All the aisles are designed to accommodate 2-way traffic. We accept the fact that with all of these sites, whenever there's rubbish or large trucks needing to access the site, they need to use up the whole width of the crossover. But I don't think that means that we need to restrict that access to one way in, because as that site develops, as the area develops, people heading to the north will use the northern crossover. People heading towards Manning Road would generally use the southern crossover. So given that it is designed for 2-way traffic, I think that crossover should allow 2-way traffic.
Okay, thank you, Brent, for that. Questions of the officers? Yes, Mr. Burge.
Just quickly, can I just clarify that, so the southern crossover is fine as it's shown at present. There's no no additional work or no redesign to be done.
No, that's right for that crossover. I mean, it hasn't been drawn into our standards and specifications. So when they do lodge an application to build a crossover, they will need to be modified slightly to accommodate our standards for a commercial type development.
So it will need a bit of a redesign, but nothing major.
Nothing major, no.
Where will the Western pedestrian access way go in relation to current access, pedestrian access corridor? Where are you proposing?
So attachment 12 of the report shows a draft location for the pedestrian access itself.
I did say that, yes, sorry.
Yeah. And essentially that is just to line up with that western access into the car park from the community centre itself.
Okay.
In essence, to split up the pedestrians to use both pedestrian pathways and to improve that legibility through the car park itself.
Doesn't that affect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parking bays?
No, I think what we had drawn up was that reduced 2 parking bays from the overall number. I think 90 was originally or is currently proposed. But with that pedestrian pathway in place, they will provide 88 parking bays, which is still compliant with the scheme requirements.
All right. Further questions of the officers? Yes, Nima.
Yes, I have the question that we're talking about events. Is there a definition of what size the event should be before they do the event management plan? Because it could be 300, 500, once a month. Is there something that the council has a policy on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we don't have a specific policy relating to overall numbers for an event. That's up to the applicants to provide the detail in terms of the frequency of events and maximum occupants. As part of the submission of the development application, they did confirm that it would be up to 500 patrons up to 5 times a year. The city does acknowledge there is parking available in their wider vicinity of the subject site that could be used for those events. So we were happy to condition an event management plan to show how the applicants can essentially carry out those events safely, and also then provide information to patrons to be able to park in the appropriate locations within the vicinity itself. So as part of a condition, we would require that information from the applicants through the event management plan, which obviously the city will consider. And if we're happy with, we would then obviously approve that event management plan, which would then be monitored over time to ensure that the events can be appropriately managed into the future while the Bentley redevelopment area does densify and develop over the next 5 or 10 years.
So what would be the definition of the event to the city? Like, is it 100, 50, 70? What is there a number?
So essentially, car parking for this facility is based on the size of the building and not the number of occupants.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'll just finish what I was going to say. So in terms of provision of parking on site, we calculate that in terms of building size. In terms of events themselves, obviously the applicants will have to provide that relevant information in terms of what they would classify each event as. In terms of it's a large event, through the application they have considered up to 500. They may hold other events through the year which is smaller than that, 250 for example, but they would also have to show how they would manage those appropriately itself as well. So we don't have a specific policy which identifies those numbers that you're looking for, and we would consider them on a case-by-case basis through the lodgement and in the assessment of that event management plan from the applicants themselves.
So if an event were to occur, say 100, it would be up to the applicant, or in this case the association, to determine whether or not it would submit an event management plan.
So the condition requires that an event management plan is submitted, which would then encompass all events that they will be taking throughout the year itself. So they don't have to submit individual event management plans as such. The
Okay.
one event management plan would cover off all events that will be taking place within the facility.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get my head around. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Further questions of the officers? Yes, Liam.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the condition 4A, the additional pedestrian access way, what are the planning grounds for? We're assessing this against the planning framework, but what are the grounds for imposing that condition? And I raise it because there's sort of established precedent that in assessing an application, you can't impose something or make a decision on the basis that you might think they're a better design if something meets the present planning criteria. Do you understand my question there? Do you think that condition is sustainable?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I do. Clause 67 of the planning regulations requires the city to consider the application across a wide range of matters. One of the clauses under clause 67 includes pedestrian safety and access into developments themselves. So the city does have an access through the planning regulations to ensure that pedestrian safety is maintained within car parking areas. And as you heard from the applicant today, there could be numerous large events taking place at this facility, and the city considers that pedestrian safety in that car park area could be improved by providing an additional pedestrian pathway. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's clause 67 of the regs?
Yes.
Further questions? No? All right. Thank you to the officers. We'll move on to the item. I'm going to seek a move in a second for the published recommendation at this stage, and we'll come back to, thank you, Mayor Hall. Move, Mayor Hall. Seconded. Nima, thank you. Mayor Hall, over to you.
I speak in, you want me to speak in regards to the matter itself, Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll speak in support of the application. Chungwa will be providing many services to the community from that location. There's an awful lot of activity will occur in the Bentley 360 precinct over the next few years. The city has been fully appraised of that planning by the state government and the developers. Whilst we don't have all the answers, this will be a key part of that. We have also discussed internally here the matters raised by members of the panel in relation to accessibility and pedestrian safety and other matters. Myself and Councillor Kunze had the benefit of being briefed by our officers on the project late last week. And a lot of the questions raised during that briefing were also raised by panel members earlier today in this meeting. I have no concerns over what has been proposed with the current conditions that are in place. I support that, but we see this as a planning opportunity for the city that complies with the precinct planning that the city has done over that area. We see that as a very sound investment, and I'm really pleased with the built form and the location and the orientation of the building on that particular block.
Mayor Hall. Emma.
Yes, I agree and support what Mayor Hall has said. It is a precinct that is developing, and I think having a community purpose-built facility will assist not only the Chunwa Association, but with the respite and every other services they're looking at providing. And I also commend the applicant in listening to the design review panel's recommendations and in accommodating them. So I support what is put forward at the moment.
Thank you. Further speakers? Birch.
Thank you, Chair. Also speaking in support of the application, obviously widely recognised a very important facility, and from looking at the broader planning for the area. It's very appropriately located. There are some challenges, of course, with access, and that's always the case when you get facilities like this. But if they're properly managed, I think one of the key things here is with condition 17 is the one of the dot points which says, where are we? Community notification and live complaint management. I think the relationship with the community is critical in a smooth path, I suppose, of future operations. And I think you've probably got some experience with that already. So that's going to be a very important element. Yeah, I guess that plan will also allow for perhaps ongoing management and response to any issues that might arise. There's scope to deal with that along the way. So I think it's a very straightforward approval. In relation to the requests for amendments, here there seems to be a bit of a conflict of what the review process came up with in a conflict in views of how that was considered. But on balance, I suppose I'll accept the city's assessment as proposed with the additional pedestrian pathway, the two-way vehicular crossover. I think the rubbish collection, that can probably be managed at the time if it means someone going out and one of the staff members or something going out and dealing with it at the time, but it's only be an occasional thing, so it shouldn't be a serious conflict, I would think. The other one is the condition 5. I agree that and we didn't get, I don't know whether we got clarification on the installation of the verge landscaping, but I do understand the applicant's request there, and perhaps if we can just see what the city officers think.
Austin, do you have a comment on the requested changes to condition 5?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just pass you over to Troy, who'll speak about condition 5.
Okay.
Is it more about when is it for building permit?
That's the
whole condition. Yeah. So just in relation to the those items there, 1 and 2 in particular, a lot of these plans are only shown schematically. When you go and have a look at the Headley Place frontage of the site, in terms of the one car bay as a pickup set down, it's going to be pretty difficult to operate that as a pickup set down. Also, the trees in reality have a diameter of 8 metres and 10 metres. On the diagram, it shows that they basically have a diameter of 4 metres. One of those trees is dead at the moment, so that area needs to be reviewed. Also, we need to have a look at where the tree roots are as well before we locate and start constructing an embayment. In relation to a footpath connection, as we've talked about, there is going to be parking outside the site. So we just need to make sure that people that park, say, adjacent to the school, for example, have a path to walk on to be able to get to the new building. In relation to that traffic island, all we're asking is that, and we can help the applicant with that as well, is that we locate where a future traffic island will go, so that any of the paths that are constructed would fit in with the alignment of that pedestrian gap in that traffic island for when we do construct it, at a later time. And that'll mean that we won't have to dig up paths and relocate, landscaping or reticulation and things like that. That's it.
I got the impression that it was more about timing of the condition, not so much the actual wording apart from 2. which is to further clarification, but it was about timing.
Yeah, the city's happy with prior to occupation of the development.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and just I'm a little bit confused with the advice note. I mean, an advice note can't require something. That's it, because it's only advice. And whose responsibility is it?
Through you, Chair, advice note essentially is just information providing to the applicant itself, so that it doesn't require, it should reference a condition itself. So in terms of what advice note are you particularly referencing?
Sorry.
2 and 3.
Yeah, it's mainly well, if we accept the conditions as standing, then in condition 2, advice 2 probably is still relevant, but it's just that part about the condition 3 in the pedestrian refuge island at the intersection of Headley Street and Nyama Way is required to be designed in accordance with Austroad's requirements. Who's designing that?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, usually we would work with the applicant. You know, we've given some advice there to put the island in. If they submit a plan to us without the island there, we would then draw it up and get them to modify the footpath to fit in with that island. So, yeah, with all these, we usually work with the applicant to try and get a design that one of us will implement somewhere down the track.
Right, further questions? No, we've gone past questions. We're into debate.
So I'll
Mr. Birch.
Well, I'll move an amendment to condition 5.3, or 5.2 and 5.3.
Prior to occupation of the 5.
Yeah, if that's acceptable
That's
for.
That's what Austin said was okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that'd be occupation. So it doesn't change the requirement. It's just when it's be resolved. But that's something that would be in everyone's interest to progress, so there aren't any late flights. So yeah, and the add the words to condition 2, which I don't have.
Which are as per the approved plan in inverted commas ground floor plan, close inverted commas, dated 11th of 3rd, 2024.
Yeah.
So you're moving.
Yeah.
That is a seconder for that. Yes, Naima, thank you. I don't think, unless somebody wants to make any comment. Mayor Hall, you have.
Can I just ask the amendment be read to the meeting? I didn't quite pick it up. It was just a conversation. Can I just have that finalised and read to the meeting?
Yes, you may. Condition 5, the proposed amendment is to replace prior to submission of a building permit prior to occupation. And then on 5.2, after on-street car bays, add the words as per the approved plan in inverted commas ground floor plan, close inverted commas, dated 11th of 3rd, 2024. Yes, Mayor.
I have no issue with that. I'd just like to ask a question of our officers whether or not they see any inadvertent consequence of including the change to the first few words prior to submission to prior to occupation. Through you, Chair.
I think Austin did indicate that, but Austin?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Mayor. No, the city would have no issue with the change in the condition. It will just mean that that information will be provided later to the city and will engage with the applicant just prior to the building opening.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to put that amendment. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Birch, the floor is still with you.
No, I've got nothing more to
Nothing more?
say on it. Thank you.
All right. Further speakers? Yes. Councillor Kunz.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I just had a grammatical issue with respect to clause 4 and clause 17. The way they're written, it's quite minor, but I think it changes how their effect. I know the intention, but the way they're written is that the plan is to be submitted and approved by the city, and the same as with clause 17. That would mean that the city actually has to submit the plan. I think it said should be submitted to and approved by the city.
Correct.
And the same as with clause 17, the event management plan shall be submitted to and approved by the city.
Just we'll treat that as an administrative change, Councillor Kunz, so we don't need to do an amendment to that. That's been noted by the staff here. Okay, further speakers. I'm more than happy with the proposal. I think it's a fantastic, impressive looking design, so well done, guys. And I agree with previous speakers that the key to this will be how you manage the events and how you manage parking. It's in a great location, so I think there's a wonderful opportunity for that area to be developed even further, I'd say. So that's it from me. Go back to Mayor Hall to close debate. Or Councillor Kunz, do you want to make some comments on the overall thing?
No, I just I echo all the previous speakers. I think the design, I think it will look fantastic in reality once it's built. Likewise, I think the issues confronting the community may be through the event management, and so I hope that all those potential issues can be mitigated, and I hope it's a thriving success. I commend everyone from the proponent to our staff for their work on this, and hope that all the perceived issues don't come into reality.
Thank you for that. Back to you, Mayor Hall, to close debate.
Thank you. In the absence of any dissent, I don't propose to speak any further other than to, again, just show my support for the applicant, and I hope it is successful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the amended motion. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on to the next item, which is the Barrendar Boulevard, Willerton. Trying to get my.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All right, we'll have a presenter and Mr. Doyle. Doyle, you've got 3 minutes from when you sit down.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present on this item. It's for and operations to the Southlands Shopping Centre, essentially comprising a shop and tavern business. Seems to be a bit of a pattern in that the previous applicant worked collaboratively and successfully with the City of Canning officers to achieve a recommendation of support for a development that looks like that's going to be a pretty good one. So we're pleased to have worked with Austin and his team again this one to now before you with a recommendation of support, and we would ask you to adopt that recommendation. That being said, to seek some fine tuning of a number of the conditions, provided a brief outlining those suggested modifications. I'll use the remaining time just to quickly run through and expand on those that may need some further explanation. I would suggest conditions 10 and 11 are fairly simple and straightforward. I don't intend to discuss those unless you have any questions. Condition 12 relates to the end of trip facilities. Now, this application is for two entirely different tenancies, which are in entirely different locations on the site. The condition requires one male and one female shower and 4 lockers.
it's not clear at all how those would be provided to service the two tenancies. It's not clear whether the intention is that they're located together or perhaps one in one and one in the other. It's not clear whether the intention is that they would just be for the staff of the shop or just for the tavern, or both, or for the wider centre. How that would be managed. If the intent is that they're provided for the use of employees of the wider centre, 2 showers and 4 lockers for a 25,000 square metre district centre is going to be very difficult to manage. So I'd suggest it would be inadequate to cater. So bicycle facilities are great. We're fully supportive of those. However, I would suggest that the end-of-trip facilities for a district centre should be provided as part of a holistic either refurbishment or substantial redevelopment of that centre. Providing a couple of showers for one tenancy is a difficult process to manage. We suggest it should not be imposed. Moving on, condition 16 requires an acoustic report. As stated in the RAR, this tavern is more than 104 metres from the nearest residence. It's within a district centre. It's separated from those residences by Burrendale Boulevard, which carries today, and already has car wash and fast food outlets along it. The city didn't require an acoustic report with the DA approval, and so we would suggest that an acoustic report is superfluous and unnecessary. Adding to that, condition 16, as currently worded, simply requires us to prepare the report. It doesn't then do anything with it. So what it really does is create some reading material without any implications for development. We would, of course, be required to comply with noise regulations. So we'd suggest that is sufficient regulatory control. Moving on then to condition 20, the waste management plan. This is for relatively minor expansion of an existing district centre. Aware of any suggestion that the existing waste management processes are not adequate and satisfactory, and intended that we'll manage waste collections existing arrangements without the need for a further plan. Condition 21, dealing with deliveries. Restricting those to 7 to 7 is unduly onerous. In fact, it's likely to be counterproductive. The district centre would typically seek to schedule deliveries to occur outside of peak hours, not requiring them to occur within peak hours. In addition, the centre, to our knowledge, doesn't have these restrictions on other tenancies, so it would see the restriction on the ability to function of the tavern and shop, which are not applied to the wider centre, which would not seem to be either necessary or desirable. Condition 22 relating to sewer connection, I think it's self-explanatory. And then lastly, advice note 4 relating to signage. Signage is listed as a aspect of the development we're seeking approval for the application. It is depicted on the plans we have submitted. It is mentioned in the RAR prepared by the city that signage is proposed as part of this application, and the RAR also specifies that signage is applicable. So we would suggest that it's clear that the signage is approved as part of this application, and that advice note 4 therefore can and should be deleted. That is all. I'm happy to answer any questions or expand further if necessary, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Questions of the presenter?
Just in relation to the noise, there's a alfresco area proposed for the tavern. I was a little bit puzzled as to who we were protecting here. And I gather it's the residents on the other side of Burrendale. But are you aware of specifically what the noise concerns might be? And is it the alfresco area
I'm not aware, I'm afraid. No, it hasn't been specified to my knowledge. So that might be a question to put to the city's officers. But given that that would seem to be the nearest sensitive receiver, I would assume that that is the case, that those residences on the opposite side of Burrendale Boulevard, and that the concern would be the alfresco specifically, but just the operations of the town, I'm sure.
I think you mentioned in your presentation that there's been activity there which has not required any noise management. Do you see the tavern and the potential for, I suppose, live music or amplified music and people who've been drinking coming and going? Do you see the need for some sort of management around that potentially?
Absolutely. And the management of that occurs under the noise regulations and under the liquor licensing requirements. So the preparation of an acoustic report doesn't actually do anything to control those.
Okay. Further questions of the presenter? No? All right. Thanks, Ben. Thank you. We'll move to Austin. Austin, do you have some comments to make, or?
Yes, I do indeed. Will I run through just each condition from the start? So in relation to condition number 10 and number 11, the city has no objections in terms of adding what the applicant has suggested. In relation to condition 12, end of trip facilities, the city does not support the applicant's recommendation to delete condition 12. End of trip facilities are required in accordance with clause 4.12.2 of LPS 42. And under this application, it requires 1 male and 1 female share of 1 unisex and 4 employee lockers. This district centre is well served by high quality cycle paths, which are located along Burrendale Boulevard and Pine Tree Gully Road, which provide ideal cycle access to the district centre for employees for the shopping centre to cycle to work. The proposal is seeking to remove 68 existing car parking bays from the site, and the city considers that the provision of end of trip facilities on site is important to incentivise employees to cycle to work and not to occupy the existing car parking bays on site. With regards to the location of the end of trip facilities, these can be provided anywhere within the subject site itself, and that would be up to the applicant to show where these are located in order to satisfy the condition itself. The city considers that the site has good cycle links, and as such, the proposed development should provide end-of-trip facilities in line with the local planning scheme requirements to ensure staff are provided with appropriate facilities to cycle to work each day. In relation to condition 16, the acoustic report, the city does not support the applicant's deletion of condition 16 and considers that an acoustic report is necessary to ensure that noise emanating from the proposed tavern is appropriately managed. The application has not provided any acoustic information on how noise and amplified music will be managed from the tavern, including from the 90-seat alfresco area, which is in close proximity to residential dwellings to the north along Burrendale Road. An acoustic assessment has been requested to establish a noise base level and address issues such as breakout noise from the proposed tavern itself. The acoustic assessment will inform the noise management plan and assist in reducing instances of complaints which may result in prosecution. The proposed tavern will result in a marked increase in nighttime noise emanating from the district centre and an increase in patrons visiting the centre at nighttime after the main shopping centre is closed. The proposed tavern with its unenclosed alfresco is a substantially different arrangement to the leisure uses which it replaces, with all but Jets Fitness separated from the external facade of the shopping centre by a large foyer area. The city's environmental health team were happy to support the proposal on the basis of the acoustic report being provided to the city as a condition of approval, and the findings of the acoustic report being implemented in the fit out of the premise, and also informing the mitigation measures proposed as part of the noise management plan. The city considers that the provision of an acoustic report to be a standard requirement for a tavern application, and where a tavern is located, the DAP considered a recent DAP application for a similar proposal at 1525 Albany Highway, Beckenham, in May 2023 for a tavern for Varsity Bar, which is the proposed tenant for this application. And that was provided with a full acoustic assessment and was approved by the DAP. This acoustic report provided a number of noise mitigation measures which were recommended from the acoustic consultants to reduce noise emanating from the site through architectural noise control, and also to ensure noise at night time was significantly reduced. This proposal was located within a light industrial area, but was located a similar distance away from residential dwellings, which this subject site is as well. So the city considers that the need for an acoustic report in this instance is needed to ensure that the future noise emanating from the tavern is appropriately managed, and to ensure that the existing residential amenity, especially to the north along Burrendere, is maintained. With regards to Condition 20 Waste Management Plan, the city does not support the applicant's recommendation to delete Condition 20, as the application seeks to intensify the use of the shopping centre through the addition of a new 1,500 square metre shop tenancy and the intensification of use by providing a large tavern, which will increase the delivery of goods and collection of waste from the site. No information has been provided by the applicant regarding waste management, and it is currently unclear what the existing management arrangements are for the shopping centre itself. A waste management plan is required to ensure shopping centre can efficiently manage the storage of waste and ensure efficient waste collection is managed and does not impact upon that customer vehicle parking, which has been reduced by over 68 bays. The city wants to ensure that the existing residential amenity adjacent to the district centre is maintained and that waste collection is managed respectively, and ensure noise from waste vehicles must comply with the environmental noise regulations. This condition, from the city's point of view, is a standard condition for commercial development and will ensure that the city can monitor waste collection and ensure it's efficiently managed on site, including from the proposed tavern itself. With regards to Condition 21, delivery and waste collection times, the city does not support the applicant's recommendation to delete Condition 21, as the application seeks to intensify the use of the shopping centre through the addition of the shop tenancy and the tavern itself, which will increase the deliveries of goods and the collection of waste from the site itself. The city has received numerous complaints from residents abutting the subject site relating to deliveries and waste vehicles on site prior to 7 a.m. and as early as 4 a.m. in the morning, with the most recent complaints being received in April 2024. This obviously has been causing a detrimental impact on the residential amenity of the area along Agincourt Drive and Castlereagh Close. The condition has been recommended by the city to ensure that all deliveries or collections from the site are carried out in accordance with the noise regs. The condition allows for deliveries to be made within a 12-hour window, 6 days a week. With these can start from 7 a.m., which is outside of peak hours for the shopping centre itself. The city does not consider the condition to be restrictive and is regularly imposed by the DAP on other commercial development approvals itself. The condition will ensure that the residential amenity of the surrounding area can be maintained while the shopping centre has been increased, and there is a proposed intensification of use on the site itself. With regards to Condition 22, connection to sewer, again, this is just a standard condition, and if the applicants are connecting to the existing sewer connection, then they'll obviously comply with the condition itself. And with regards to Advice Note 4, signage, the city recommends that this advice note to be retained. The approval relates to the tavern signage only for Varsity Bar, with the signage on the commercial tenancy only being shown as indicative and actually doesn't provide any signs itself. So the city put on the advice note just to make the applicants aware that any future signage may require development approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Questions of the officers, or Austin?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to, just checking which ones I'm talking about here. Yeah, it's probably conditions 20, 21. 22, I don't understand. I would have, is there an option for someone in a shopping centre to not connect to the sewer? I would have thought that that's covered by other Water Corp regulations or something like that. I really don't understand that condition, but it seems as though it's almost like it's superfluous. But anyway, we'll leave that aside. I have seen it on other in other applications, but in relation to 20 and 21, does that relate to the whole centre or just to these developments? We've got 3 development sites here.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair. So the application itself proposes the expansion of the shopping centre site itself. So the city would want to see a waste management plan for the shopping centre.
Okay, that's. Have you taken advice on that? Where I'm coming from is probably only deal with the matters before us, and this seems to be extending on the basis of 3 individual proposal. These conditions, you're looking at applying to a much larger development that's been in place for a long, long time, and there's a question in my mind as to the validity of doing that in this case. What's your comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, from the city's point of view, the application seeks to expand the existing shopping centre itself. So the city has to consider the collection of waste from the shopping centre as a whole, and also delivery times itself. Over the past 20 years, the shopping centre has been increased incrementally over time, and the city is not aware that any conditions at that point was imposed for a waste management plan to be provided. Ultimately, what the city wants to do is to ensure that the district centre and the shop itself can operate efficiently, but also be respective of its neighbouring residential environment itself. And so the city thought that the imposition of these conditions would enable both of those to be achieved.
I think Mr. Birch's question was around whether the tail can wag the dog in this case.
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I did acknowledge that, and I did say that the shopping centre itself, the application is for the expansion of the shopping centre.
Yeah.
So the city has considered the application as a whole, including the car parking as a whole for the shopping centre itself. So the city does consider there's an appropriate nexus to impose a condition requiring a waste management plan to be provided for the whole centre itself.
Where does that start? If it was one shop being added, would that still apply? Sorry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, well, the city would have to consider in terms of what that shop is, in terms of the size. What we have before us is a proposed tavern, which will provide a lot of waste and a lot of collections and an additional 1,500 square metres of commercial tenancy itself. So with regards to waste management on site, if it's currently operating efficiently, as the applicant has said, all they're required to do is provide that information to us in a waste management plan along with the proposed tenancies for the city to consider and approve. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. Further questions?
Yeah, Phil, just in relation to the condition 12, that's not in relation to the whole, not applying that to the whole shopping centre. That's just in relation to what's generated by this development proposal?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's indeed correct. So the requirement for one male and one female or one unisex is only triggered through the proposed additions themselves. The city is unaware of what existing end-of-trip facilities there are at the current shopping centre itself, as this wasn't provided as part of the application. But with regards to the location of those end-of-trip facilities, they can be provided anywhere within the subject site itself, as long as staff can access them.
So Austin, what's the difference between applying a waste management plan to the whole of the site, but in this case, an end-of-trip facility just to this part of the development and not the whole development?
So from the city's perspective, we were unaware of what end-of-trip facilities there already are on site. So we didn't want to condition the provision of 13 or 14 showers to encompass the whole entire site itself, because the applicant did not provide that information as part of the assessment of the application itself. With regards to the waste management plan, all we're asking for is the information to be provided by the applicant of how the shopping centre currently manages waste collection and also delivery times. We're not asking them to change it. We're just asking them to provide that information to us as part of an overall waste management plan for the site. As I said earlier, the city has been receiving a number of complaints from adjoining residential properties relating to waste collection on site, which is happening well before 7 a.m. So the city does consider that there is a nexus there to ensure that waste collection is provided in accordance with the noise regs, and also to ensure that existing residential amenity surrounding the shopping centre can be maintained through the provision of a waste management plan and ensuring that those deliveries do take place after 7 a.m. Thank you.
So in effect, it's an updated waste management plan you're seeking?
Yes, correct.
So that could be in the condition?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's just getting back to the end-of-trip facilities. I mean, it's not always a simple matter. I mean, this is a large shopping centre. There might be more options, but you know, with showers in particular, the shower facilities, there's plumbing and all sorts of things. It can have a significant impact on the plans that have been submitted. Has the city given consideration as to how that condition might be accommodated?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we haven't had the detailed plans to show where it could be located, but the city is aware that there is a UAT within the varsity tenancy, for example, where a shower could be fitted, which could be unisex. Ultimately, if end-of-trip facilities couldn't be provided in a 23,000 square metre site, where can they be provided?
Further questions of Austin? No. Okay. Thank you. We'll move to the item. Now we have a recommendation for approval with a number of conditions. Is there a mover? Yes, Mayor Hall, thank you. And a seconder? Yes, Nima, thank you. Mayor Hall, are you as the mover?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I support the application in its entirety, and I'll just speak generally in relation to it, but more specifically about some of the matters that have been raised by the applicant this morning. Chair, to you and the members, the City of Canning has 4 very large shopping centres. It's a business that we understand fully. My previous occupation, I owned 4 retail stores in very large shopping centres in Western Australia. I also understand it. I have an intricate knowledge of running a business in a shopping centre. We are also the home of Westfield Carousel, the largest shopping centre in Western Australia. I'm pleased with the conditions provided and the explanations by our staff. That area there, I'll speak to the tavern particularly, and condition 16 in relation to noise and acoustic assessment. That particular area there is one that needs to have an assessment provided by the applicant. What isn't fleshed out in the report is that just within 100 metres of it is the City of Canning's Willetton Library and the Willetton Childcare Centre, both sit right on the periphery of that tavern site. And when we talk about live music, we don't always have live music provided only at night. Live music, I guess, can be provided during the day, but our library and a childcare centre sit right on the periphery. If you look at the site map there, right on the periphery of the tavern, I think it's a sensible and logical step to require the applicant to provide that peace of mind to the City of Canning, and also to the residents. This is a residential area. There are residents living directly behind this shopping centre at Agincourt Drive. There are also people living very close proximity on both Pine Tree Gully Road, which is only 300 metres away. So I think that would be a step that should be taken. In relation to the waste management plan, there is already a waste management plan put in place by the shopping centre. I don't think it would be an onerous task for the shopping centre to simply review what they already have in place and add to it the additional uses provided. A tavern will deliver, obviously, meals and packaged goods in relation to cartons of beer and other sold products. There will be an enormous amount of waste coming out of that, I would expect. I would hope that it would be managed correctly. I don't see any issues with the conditions there. In relation to the condition around timing, I personally, as the Mayor, have fielded numerous questions from residents in that precinct about the timing of deliveries, and they have been occurring in the very early hours of the morning with trucks reversing and the beeping of those reversing trucks. And, waste management is often a noisy issue. So I think it's sensible with the shopping centre not generally opening for business before 9 a.m. that there's a 2-hour leeway in the morning before the general operation proceeds, that movement can be made at a reasonably early time. I don't see any issue with that. Chair, in relation to the questions around the end of trip facilities, the City of Canning, understands that this Willetton precinct is also one of Western Australia's major sporting precincts. We have the Willetton Basketball Stadium directly across the road, the Willetton Sports Centre, with 2 very big sporting clubs in there. Chunghwa have a presence in there already. There's a tennis club across the road, a very large bowling club. We have invested millions of dollars in bicycle infrastructure to make sure that people can get their cars off the road and cycle to and from these facilities. I would hope that, people that are working at this tavern or working in this centre, we can't retrospectively fit out the Southland Shopping Centre, but we can today in 2024 make sure that the tavern there and the staff have the option to be able to cycle to work if they choose to. I hope that some do, and they have the option to also have one unisex facility there rather than what has been proposed. I speak in favour of the applicant. I think the additional retail space is welcome. I wish it had gone a little bit further. We were looking for a far grander retail redevelopment, but the tavern there is something that I think can be managed, will add to the amenity of that area. I fully support it, but it needs to be appropriately conditioned, and I think it has been appropriately conditioned. There is another tavern not 300 metres from this current site, and we have a number of taverns and licensed premises all through the City of Canning. It is, again, a business that we understand, but it does need to be conditioned for obvious reasons. I think there's been a sensible balance between development and planning and amenity, and I support it in its current term and would hope that there are not further amendments to the conditions, only because I think there is a sensible balance at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Nima.
Thank you. I support the comments made by Mayor Hall, and I support the recommendation to approve the development, the DA with the conditions as stated. I think the arguments have been presented well for and against. However, I truly concur that the conditions have been there put for a purpose. And given the tavern being in a 1,500 square metre development, I think it is warranted. So I hereby second the recommendation put forward by the officers with the current conditions.
Thank you. Further speakers, Mr. Birch.
Firstly, Chair, can I just see if the mover and seconder are happy to include the words additional in conditions 10 and 11, which have been accepted by the accepted by the administration.
Chair, I have no issue with that. It's a very minor amendment.
That becomes the substantive motion at the moment then by adding those words.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's another one of those ones where no one disagrees that it shouldn't be supported. The application that it's come down to conditions. The word retrospective was mentioned by the Mayor, and I do have some trepidations about applying basically retrospectively requirements to the overall centre, and I'm not fully convinced that they are sustainable. However, by the same token, I don't know for certain. I certainly understand where the city is coming from. There are obviously there've been problems, and this is attempting to take this opportunity to try and rectify and deal with some of those problems. So I won't propose any amendments. I do have some sympathy for the request for them. I think it probably goes beyond what the proponents were considering when they were putting together this proposal, and how it affects the going forward. It does raise the question of whether these conditions might be almost a de facto refusal of the application. It's getting close to that, I think, although I don't know for certain. So I'm not confident enough to suggest amendments as proposed, although I say I do have some doubts as to whilst understanding, as I say, the reasons for them. I'm not fully confident that they are sustainable amendments, sustainable conditions, but I won't, as I say, I'm not confident enough with that to suggest an amendment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Further speakers? Councillor Kunta.
Thank you, Chair. Look, before I begin, just similar to the last item with respect to conditions 4 and 14, I think it needs to add 2 after submit, just so that it's grammatically correct with respect to who's submitting and who's approving the relevant plans and not the city. Clause 14 should be to be submitted to, and clause 14 is the same.
Okay, we'll treat that as administrative, Councillor.
Yeah, similar to previous speakers, I speak in favour of the report. I don't have an issue with, I actually support the officers in their request for an acoustic report. I think as the proponent goes through the needing a tavern licence and so forth, they'll be needing to defend the impacts that the proposal will have. And I think having that report as part of this process will just be able to defend that it won't have a negative impact on the broader community. Similar to what Mayor Hall said, it's in a residential community. I think we need to establish that the negative impact of the noise won't be such the neighbouring residents will have to be negatively impacted. With respect to the issues raised with waste management and looking at the whole site in its entirety, it would only take changing the subject site a tiny bit, and you'd need to retrospectively enforce the ACROD and disability legislation and make sure that that was the whole site actually fitted with needing proper accessibility. By expanding the site, we're changing the traffic flow around. That could impact where the trucks go. I don't have an issue with then requiring the waste management to be done in such a way that encompasses the whole site. I'm not sure exactly where the waste trucks go currently, but when we look at the new areas, we don't just look at car parking in their isolation, we look at the entire site. I think that should be the case with waste management. We should actually understand that it won't negatively impact the relevant neighbouring community and that it can be done in such a way that's effective and prudent. And the parking, the end of trip facilities, obviously there's quite a shortfall in requiring end of trip facilities. I think that should be, I'd hope that the centre would look at that already and not only do it because it needs to do it. The reality is that that whole precinct has traffic issues and parking issues, and if you can incentivise your staff to ride or take other measures to work, I think that would provide a better outcome overall. So I hope that the shopping centre looks at that if they haven't already done so. But look, I support the as is. I support the clauses as put by staff, and yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Quincy. Yes, I too support the proposal, and while I do have similar concerns to Mr. Birch in terms of applying those conditions to the whole of development, I accept, and perhaps I'm more comfortable because it is a tavern. One of them is a tavern use, and a tavern use does generate a lot of activity, a lot of waste management. So I'm happy to go along with those conditions as they're currently prepared. I think the use is good. I think it'll be a great benefit to the community. With just those slight concerns, but I'm prepared to support it as it is. So back to you, Mayor Hall, to close the debate.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation as wasn't amended, but we added those additional words. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Just to close the meeting, SAP applications, no general business, I don't think. I'll close the meeting at 11:25. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.